Hi, it's a Lipstick Gal. Thank you so much for watching today. Let's talk some Sydney Grace. Now, if you do not know, Sydney Grace is my favorite eyeshadow brand. Hands down, across the board, my fave. And they're having their Christmas in July sale coming up on Monday. It starts Monday the 24th at 9 in the morning. And they are doing some amazing sales. And if you're wondering what I'm excited about, I wanted to share that with you today, as well as recommendations for you. So first of all, before we get into it, just know that I'm going to have a link to their website in the description box down below. I will also put my Sydney Grace playlist down below, as well as link it here for you, just so that if you want to look at other things, I'm not going to be swatching everything because, oh, there's a lot. But there was a video last year where I swatched everything, and then everything that I picked up after the sale last year, I have swatched and used in video. So you can kind of go and look and see what it is that I have. And I wanted to tell you probably my most used. If we have a similar makeup aesthetic, what I love the most, what I reach for the most, and what really calls to me. On top of that, what has me excited, because they're launching new products this year. All right, let me just tell you my favorite eyeshadow palette, hands down, the one that I reach for the most, and I still have in the original old packaging, is this. This is the Enduring Love. This is not the first palette I ever got. The first palette I got was Autumn's Rain. And I love that palette, but I have taken it out of its palette and I have split it up as singles. But this Enduring Love palette right here is everything I want. One of my favorite things about the brand is that they do, for many of their palettes, they'll do two options, a light and a deep. Because this shade here might be too fair for somebody who has a richer skin tone. It might look ashy on them. It might not be right. So they'll put a different shade here. They'll also make a different shade here. They'll have like maybe like a third of the palette will be a little bit deeper and skin tone appropriate for somebody who's not as fair as I am. I love that about Sydney Grace. So everybody can wear this color story and be able to use every shade in the palette, as opposed to me going, oh, this one's too dark or this one's too dark. They're gonna make like your crease shades work really well, your highlight shades work really well. Like if you're looking for something to darken the outer corner in a light palette, it's gonna be not quite as deep as in the deep palette, because our needs are gonna be different, but you're still gonna have a lot of the same shades. Like these shades will be the same, this shade will be the same, this shade will, like a lot of the shades will remain the same. They'll just actually shift some of, you know, the mid-tone and lighter shades to be better for whoever's reaching for it. If you're looking on the website, you won't find it in this packaging. This kind of metallic packaging is what they launched it in. These days, you're gonna find it in packaging that's similar to this. It's gonna be cardboard, it will still have a mirror, but the pans will all be round. So if you're looking for Enduring Love, which head over heels, I've used so much, one of my favorite shades ever is in here, is this shade called Devotion. Oh man, every time I see this, my heart just gets like so happy. That all over the eye on its own is just enough for interest. It has the shine and sparkle. And because I'm nearing 50, I'm 48 and a half, my eyelid texture is changing day by day. We'll just say that. It's not what it was 5 years ago, much less a decade ago, but these pressed pigments still sit beautifully on my eye and don't make my eyelid look extra textured. I am wearing one today. Some products kind of cling and make my skin look dry. It kind of looks like I have almost like reptile skin on my lid that really brings out the texture. Not this formula. So this is probably my most reached for, my most trusted, and I love this. And I tend to use, stab in the dark which ones I use. I use the warm and the cool tone neutrals. I usually skip the blue and kind of this more magenta-y shade and this deeper, richer purple here. Doesn't mean I haven't used them. They're the ones that get the least love. But everything else in here, this is fantastic. The next palette I want to recommend, if you like kind of warm neutrals, this one is amazing. This is the Summer Days palette. This also comes in a light and a deep, and you can see mine has been used so much. I have sparkle everywhere. The one thing that I like about this is that we do have some real definite warmth in through here, but we do have some cooler tones. It does lean just like slightly pinky, just a little bit, but then you have these amazing pressed pigments. They're, I mean, like Delicious. I love this palette. If you are a real warm toned, neutral loving kind of gal, you're gonna love this, but this just really makes playing with it so much fun. Here's one that I reach for on days when I don't want to think about things and I want a slightly pink leaning neutral look. It's this is California Coast. I love this. Another one of those that comes in a light and a deep, but I love that we have some really decidedly cooler tones in through here. This is a cool pink, but then we do have a little bit of warmth. I live for the pressed pigments in here. They're so stunning. But do you see what I'm saying? It's just a little bit more pink leaning and overall cool. I have really been loving kind of cool eyeshadows, and this is just like dark enough with these shades in through here without going too far over. And on my fair skin, it's absolutely beautiful, but it never makes me look like, okay, I love eyeshadow, but I don't have makeup artist skills. And sometimes if I use shades that are too dark, even if I try and blend really well, I just can't always get anything other than like a startled panda look. And that's not what I'm going for. And this is deep enough without being too deep that it gets me there and it makes me look like I know what I'm doing. There are some palettes that Sydney Grace makes that I'm sure are amazing and fabulous, but because it's not my makeup preference, I don't have the Tropicolor palette. I don't have two of the palettes that Christine created in collaboration with Sydney Grace. Christine does the Temptalia blog, but I do have one of her palettes. And this is one where it's just enough outside of my comfort zone, incorporating color, but it's kind of like subtle color. So if you're looking for a more colorful palette, but it's not like bright pops of rainbow color, might I suggest this? This is the On the Horizon palette. This again, like comes in a light and a deep version. So you're gonna have some greens in here. You're gonna have some blues. I live for like these two shades here, these two shades here, and then everything else over. And remember how I told you I struggle with colorful eyeshadows? There is something about these two shades right here. I don't know what it is. I never thought I would wear a blue this dark other than like maybe as eyeliner. I actually use it in the outside corner and it's stunning. And this shade right here, this one's called Sakura Glow. Like you can see, like it's the messiest one in here because this is the one I'm forever opening this palette for. They are stunning, beautiful, like really, really gorgeous, gorgeous shadows. And they have a nice reflect, but they're not too sparkly. It brings in color and a little bit of shine and reflectivity without being too much. That's what I love about this. So if you're looking for a slightly more colorful palette and you're like, okay, I see you've got your neutral, maybe boring browns. Okay, yeah, those first three are the ones that I go for, that I reach for, and kind of like my, I don't know what to do today, let me pull this out. If I want something that's a little bit more colorful, something that's a little bit more focused on the eye, something that's a little bit more fun, On the Horizon is fantastic. Now, if you are great with color and you really know your color theory and you're great wearing bold shadows, the other two palettes from the Temptalia collection, because there's three of them, this is kind of like the most subdued, get them. They're totally worth it. All three palettes come in a light and a dark version. And the Tropicolor also has those bright, bold, like punchy mattes and gorgeous shimmers and foils. They're just not colors that I know what to do with. So those are not part of my collection, not because they're bad, just because it's not my makeup aesthetic. Here's another palette I want to recommend to you if you're looking for color, but you do like it to be a little bit more neutral. This is one that they released originally as a 9-pan bundle. They brought it back last year as its dedicated palette. This is the Mountain Trail palette. This has the most beautiful gold and kind of olivey tones in here. I love green, but I love like a warmer green. I want kind of like a murky but a warm green. The minute you put me in something that is too mint or has too much blue in it, like a teal, it's a lot of look, and I panic. I panic, but I don't panic in these. I have a whole video where I try this on. If you want to see it, check out that Sydney Grace playlist. I'll also link it for you here. And it was years ago, but I love this. And it's one of those that I just can't seem to stop reaching for. I mean, Look at that. It reminds me of beetle wings. This is the sort of colorful, but not too much like that I want to wear on my eyes. Yeah, they're stunning, stunning, stunning. One of the things that I love so much about Sydney Grace as a brand is how consistent they are. I don't want to name other brands and say they're bad, but there are some brands where one palette will be like a 9 out of 10 for like performance, for pigmentation, for blendability, and the next palette I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna have the same formula and it'll be like a 3 out of 10. It's always like, I don't know, you're rolling the dice, you don't know what you're getting. I have never, ever, ever, ever had bad, like from palette to palette, the quality is immaculate. You're always going to get these beautiful shades. The mattes blend like butter. They are so, so good. And I never have to worry that, oh, well, is it gonna be as good as the last one? It's more like, does this color story call to me? Here's another palette that I know they're restocking for the sale and that I really, really love, and it's this. This is the Tiny Marvels palette. This is the palette they did in collaboration with Mel Thompson. Mel Thompson was an amazing, amazing makeup artist and YouTuber, and she is the reason I started purchasing Sydney Grace. So I love that she did a collab, and her palette is stunning, 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 stunning. I use this one quite a lot. I love the matte shades we have in here, like these guys. I also love that we have more pastel shades like this Mantis shade and this Jewel Bee and this Flutterby. But I also like that it gets a little bit darker and cooler over on this end. If you're looking to kind of dip your toe into the colorful eyeshadow but it not be too much, this is great because it has a lot of kind of easy to anchor nudes and mattes in here that will work really well while you can pop on something else. And again, like, seriously, I can't say enough about how good these metallic shadows are. They're my favorite. This next palette is fairly new, but it's one that I just can't stop reaching for. I think it's because it has a lot of really beautiful mattes and it has really soft leaning metallics that are a little bit more on the pastel side. I'm talking about the Glitzy, Fritzy, and Sydney Grace collab called Blessed. This is another one of those I love. Okay, almost all of these are going to have a light and deep option. This is the light version, but this palette, oh, like I spend so much time like right in through here. And then I love this top row so much, but I'm surprising myself. I've actually been wearing this shade right here. I know, who am I? Who am I? Also have really loved both of the greens in here. This one is called My Buttercup and this one here is So Merry. I wasn't sure when this palette was first, being marketed and I saw pictures for the first one, I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe not. And I decided to get it on a whim. Now, I have always appreciated Mary from Glitzy Fritzy's content. I love that she got a collab, like seriously, head over heels for that. But I was like, I don't wear purples, I don't wear turquoise. I feel like I have these types of green shades, but I wore this all throughout June and only this eyeshadow palette, this and like one other palette. And I also in my season of like, I don't really want to wear eyeshadow, like really light eyeshadow looks or hardly any, I was reaching for this and I was like, I realized this was bringing me inspiration. So I think they're going to have this restocked both in the light and the deep. But because it's new and it will be on sale for the first time, this is probably gonna go really quick. The one that I'm wearing today, I feel like I'm just gonna tell you all the palettes I have. The one I'm wearing today is the, oops, upside down, Unbreakable Bond, again in the light version. I really like using this as a quad like these four here. I have used these four. Sometimes I'll use like these four right in through here. I feel like it works really well. I've also used like these four here to do a look. I know it wasn't really designed that way because I took pictures of them in quads and posted it to my Instagram and the brand wrote me back like we never thought about it. Like, but I have literally been using them in quads and it has been working. This is such a great palette. I really love this Spring Fling shade here. I'm wearing a combo of these two. I have Haley's Haze on today. I have both of these guys on here and a little bit of this Porch Swing. I have a lot of shades on, but it doesn't look like it's too much. That's the one thing. These are ultimately buildable. These are also easy to blend. Like even the dark shades, like the mattes. I haven't really been showing you a ton of mattes, but these are just stunning. They're fantastic. They're really, really, really gorgeous. I feel like because I have the heart of like a bird that likes to collect shiny things, I definitely live for the metallic shades and the pressed pigments. Those bring me so much joy. But I feel like also if you want a couple of shades that are easy, that are kind of like one and done, like the mattes are the easiest thing to throw in your crease and walk out the door. Maybe to use 2 matte shades to kind of shape out your eye, throw on a little mascara and be done. I really love that about Sydney Grace. The quality is spectacular. And I really do enjoy this palette. Here's one that I read on their Instagram account that they're going to be discontinuing. This is another one that comes in a light and a deep option. This is the Coffee Talk palette. And this has some really beautiful kind of brown shades in here. We do have some cool colors in here. Like some of these guys, like this one here, they lean a little bit cool. And it's kind of like neutral with a cool lean, which I really, really, really like. But this is one of those, although I really like this palette and I would recommend it, I tend to lean more towards a cool pink. So I like California Coast just a hair more. Here's one that I was sure like I'm not going to use it. And when I got it last year, I couldn't stop reaching for it. This is where the wild things grow. And a lot of it was, I don't wear shades like this whole row here. I was like, I don't wear shades that are this like orange or this purple. This is the one shade I don't reach for. I reach for everything else in here. But Primrose, oh my goodness, together with this shade right here, stunning. And the mattes in here are so easy to incorporate. It looks like it could be on the verge of colorful, and it is, but it's easy. Easy, easy, easy. I was not sure I was gonna love this palette. This is one of those, you spend a certain amount, you get this free. I picked this up and I loved it. So this is not because it's a bad palette, but out of all of these amazing palettes, the one that I reach for the least is this one. This is the Be Mine palette, another one of those that comes in a light and a deep option. And I think a lot of it is because it leans a little bit darker. You know, you've got like darkness here, darkness in through here, and a lot of these shades across the bottom tend to be a little bit darker than I tend to go on in my eye looks. Like I will use these two, but everything else in the bottom row is, I have to really be careful when I use it. I also really like this shade here, but sometimes when I'm like in a rush, that shade, I'm like, oh, okay, I picked up too much because she's pigmented. I like that this top row here is kind of like a warm neutrals row. We've got kind of like a mauve pink row in through here, and then darker deep colors to help deepen up the look. And I feel like it's maybe the darkness that keeps me from reaching for this palette. Not that the colors aren't good, not that the formulas aren't good, not that this palette isn't stunning. It's just that I tend to like things that are just a little bit lighter because my blending skills are not that of a pro makeup artist. But I mean, colors in this palette are really gorgeous. Take a look here. These are not all of my Sydney Grace singles. These are just the ones that are either metallic or pressed pigments. Some of these have come out of palettes. I used to have it wasn't Sweet Talk, it was a Sweet Tooth. Anyway, it was like the candy palette. It was like pink and purple on the outside. I realized I wasn't using the colors in their color story, so I pulled them out and put the metallics in here and put the mattes in my other places. And I did the same thing with the Autumn's Rain because I was only reaching for certain shades. And it's easier for my brain, the way that I think, to have things kind of, oh look, here are all my warm greens. Oh look, you know, here are my blues, or here are some kind of peachy pink shades. I kind of have things grouped together by color family so that I can quickly go through and pull out 9 pans, put them in a magnetic palette and create my own custom palette. I love doing that. And I think that's what, you know, having things in here makes it a lot easier. So I do have a lot of shades in here that Sydney Grace doesn't make anymore. One from the Autumn's Rain palette, ones that I pulled out of. That's the other thing that's great is, did you know that every single one of these that comes in packaging like this is magnetic. And if you hold a magnet over this, they just pop right out. There's a magnet at the bottom here. You can just put them right back in. They don't have stickers on the back. So you may want to take a Sharpie, write the name on the back and what palette it came from, which is what I do. If I ever want a specific shade that I only have in one palette, I will pull it out, create my own palette, and then, you know, 4 or 5 weeks later, put everything back where it came from and go again. But I do have some shades in here that came from other palettes, and I do the same thing with my matte shades. I like to keep them all together. You know, I have cooler mattes coming down in through here, ones that are more kind of like a cool toned berry tone. These guys are, you know, just a little bit warmer, more of those really easy crease shades. I like to have things that make it a little bit easier for me to quickly pull together a palette. And then I have my more colorful mattes over here. I am looking to bulk up my mattes this year with the sale. I probably don't need any more kind of mid-tone shades. I could use some deeper, darker shades. Sometimes I'll just pull one out of the Unbreakable Bond, or I'll pull one out of Coffee Talk, like if I want something deeper than what I have in a single here. But I really do love the singles. If I was gonna recommend some singles, let me just pull a few. Here's one of my favorites. This one's called Greatest Gift. This is a beautiful duochrome. It can look lilac at times. It can look a little bit golden. It's such a pretty topper, but it has dimension to it that I don't always, I like when it's really light and sheer and has just a hint of that lilac-y purple shade. Love so much. Another one that kind of does the same thing right here. This one's called Winter Garden. Winter Garden has more of a blue, almost purple look to it. I like really sheer light metallic shades, or I want something that's really like heavy and metallic and covers the eye. Here's one that is a favorite for so many people. This one is called Peace. This is a cooler, almost taupey, even a little bit platinum at times. It's not too silver, but it has such a gorgeous, gorgeous look to it. But I feel like these guys are a little sheerer and shiftier, and this one here, I feel like the color is the same. It just depends on how the light hits it, and these guys kind of shift colors. But this is a beautiful, beautiful shade. Another one of my favorites, this one is called Troops. So Troops is just a little bit cooler and a little bit darker than Peace, but they're stunning, stunning shades. If you're looking for something a little bit warmer but metallic, I really love Hot Stuff. I basically went through and looked at which of these singles had the largest divot in them. You can see that this is the sort of kind of mid-toned metallic that leans warm that I would really love. Here is one that I'm addicted to. I feel like every time I create my own palette, I pull this one in. This one's called Blondie. Stunning, lovely. They're all a lot lighter, but that's really my preference. Another classic shade from Sydney Grace, this is Turtle Doves. Here is Turtle Doves. It's a little bit lighter than Blondie. Oh boy, I'm leaving fingerprints everywhere. Tends to be just a hair more golden, and this is a little bit pinkier or cool toned. I think you can see that difference here. I always love a shade like this. This one is called Arabian Nights. It's kind of like a really pretty, almost like a bedroom eyes brown. This has more of a satin look to it. It's not quite as like sparkly as everything else, but it's a beautiful, warm leaning brown that is just like as a one and done is stunning. If you want something that's not quite as light as the rest of these metallics, Arabian Nights is one I reach for a lot. Let's talk about some matte shades. This one here in San Jose is one that I had for a long time, and I took it traveling with me, and I dropped it and I shattered it, and I loved it so much I had to get it back. Now it's hard to see because it is so close to my skin tone, which is why I love it. It's a little bit deeper, but it's so good for me for kind of blending things out a little bit higher here close to the brow bone. If you're looking for something a little bit deeper and you're fair, my favorite is Pismo. Oh, this is such a good shade. This is a little bit cooler, has a little bit more gray to it. This is a little bit warmer San Jose, but I love these lighter matte shades. They're really good if you're wanting something even warmer than that. San Diego is a fave. Love this one too. Here's San Diego. This is one that when I'm creating my own palette, I reach for this as kind of like my mid-tone crease shade without even realizing it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why it has a big divot in there. I reach for that one a lot. Here's one that I picked up last year. I have really been liking this one. This one is Admiral. This is kind of like a little bit of an olivey it's kind of, okay, it looks kind of green here, like an army green, but it has a little bit of like a deep, rich taupe to it. It reminds me of like, I don't know, it almost looks like mushroomy at times. I know that's a kind of like a weird description to it, but it's really, really, really pretty. If you're looking for a cool brown option, one of my favorites is the shade Grounds. This is one of those that when I picked it up and I started using it, I was like, whoa. So for me, it's dark enough without being too dark. It brings dimension. I've used it as liner. I've used it kind of over the lid and put something more metallic over the top, so I have like a bit deeper base to get a different sort of shine out of the pressed pigments. But Grounds is one of my favorite. Another one that I love so much is this one here. This one's called Beyond. These are some of the darkest singles that I have from the brand because I don't go too dark. This one here is just a little bit deeper. And the one that I use constantly right here is this one. This one is Plummet. So a deeper shade, but definitely has more of that berry lean to it. If I'm doing something, you know, maybe a little bit pink, something with some warmth to it, and I want something to ground it, but not be too dark, I really, really, really love Plummet. But the mattes, I mean, they're so easy. They're stupid easy to blend. If you struggle with eyeshadows, I feel like Sydney Grace is really user friendly. I don't have to work too hard to, you know, pick up and place metallics. It's like, swipe my finger across and I'm good to go. Blend out a little bit where I need to. I can pick any of the mattes up with a brush, you know, like dab dab, and start to buff it in. They're fantastic. I don't need to use a eyeshadow primer when I use these eyeshadows because I don't have particularly oily eyelids. One problem that I have been running into is that I've been getting skincare on my eyelids. You know, I just like do this and start rubbing in like hydrating toners or serums or just like skincare of any sort, moisturizers, SPF, you name it, and it ends up here. And if I get too much there and then I put this over the top without an eyeshadow primer, they do kind of settle into the crease or break up just a little bit throughout the day. But if my eyelid is completely bare because I don't have the oily eyelids, these just hang tight all day and they look freshly applied. Love, love, love so much. It took me a while to fall in love with the cream eyeshadows from Sydney Grace, mainly because I was not careful in making sure I didn't have any skincare on my eyelids. But these are one of those that if you want an easy one and done shadow, you need the smallest amount. This would be enough for like one eye here. This is beautiful. And if you like a cream shadow, look at that. This one here is called Cliff Jumping. I haven't checked. I only showed you singles, like powder singles, that I knew that they were carrying in stock right now. I haven't done that for these guys. I don't have a ton of these because I don't know that all of the colors call to me. But I do really, really love this formula. This is one where I make a special effort just to make sure that I have cleaned off my eyelid before I put these on. And these are great for a day when you're running out the door and you don't have time to, this one by the way is Campfire. You don't have time to do like a full look, but you want something easy. If you have, like, these hang tight all day. If you have oily eyelids, you are gonna wanna put an eyeshadow primer down. But if I put these on a completely bare lid that has nothing on it that's like hydrating at all, these guys are fantastic. And once they dry, they don't budge. But they're really easy to like blend with your finger, blend with a brush. They're fantastic. I think I have 6 of these. I used to have a few more, but I gave some to friends because they were colors that came in like mystery bags and they weren't the sort of colors I would have picked on my own. There are a lot of other products from Sydney Grace that I haven't tried. Haven't tried the brushes. Haven't tried their new face palette that has, you know, bronzer, highlight, blush. Haven't tried a lot of their lip products. I did have one of their lip creams once. It just wasn't a color that I loved. Although the formula was good, I liked the packaging. Me and the color, we didn't connect. And so I gave it to a friend. I do have one of their highlights. I used to have more of these. This one here is in the shade First Date. This was in one of their mystery bags last year, and I like this. So I keep it in this little teeny tiny magnetic palette here, so I keep it in with all of my highlights, and I know when I see it, that's what it is. And I'm more likely to reach it than if I keep it in a large palette with a whole bunch of other singles. I'll use it this way when it's in with all of my powder highlights. I know that they have some loose pigments like this. This is another one that came in last year's, and these are stunning. Like, look at this. This is insane. They're so pretty, but I get a lot of fallout with these. And it could be that I'm just, you know, picking up too much with my finger, but isn't this stunning? They have these loose pigments. They come in packaging like this. They're really, really pretty, and I like them quite a lot. This one here is called Welcome to the Family, but I think this might have been like a limited edition shade as well as the first date, because they had kind of like a wedding themed peach mystery bag last year, and that's what came in there. So I know I like this formula. I just tend to prefer a pressed pigment over a loose pigment, because this ends up like fall out down here, and because they are so pigmented, as I go to flick it away with a dry brush, I just get little streaks of color. But they do have a lot of other lovely products. I know they came out recently with cream blush. Like, they've got a lot of new stuff that I'm really anxious to try. There are some new palettes that Sydney Grace is bringing out this year. One of them is kind of like a re-promote. Remember how I told you several years ago they had their Mountain Trail bundle, and it came, you know, this one here that came just as a 9-pan set. The year they launched this 9-pan set that they later released as a palette, they had another bundle called their Raspberry Kiss bundle. I'll throw a picture of it up here for you. That is a beautiful, lovely, beautiful combo. I have that set. It's kind of spread out amongst all of my singles now based on color, but there is a video that I'll link for you here as well as a description bar down below where I use the Raspberry Kiss and I swatch it. It was several years ago, camera quality is a little bit different, but if you want to see that, check it out. They're releasing it in new packaging for this summer sale, and if you love these rosy tones, it is a 2 thumbs way up. Love, love, love. They have a new one called Heaven on Earth that looks like it's more of a, it's got some blues, it's got some kind of murky olivey greens. It has some really, really beautiful colors in it. And that is one I have my eye on, even though I'm not likely to use the 2 kind of blues in the bottom. I don't know. I might, but I really feel like the rest of it is calling to me. Again, another one of those palettes that comes in a light and a dark, which I'm so excited about. And they have a new neutral palette. This one's called Love's Journey. Oh, she is stunning. Again, light and a deep version. One thing that I'm really liking about Love's Journey is that it looks like it's very intense on the mattes. It's got like 2/3 of the palette are going to be matte shades and 1/3 is going to be their pressed pigment or metallic formula. If you really love those easy to wear colors, you're going to find warm shades, you're going to find cool shades, but I love that we've got a lot of mattes in this one. I love, love, love that. Looks like they also have a new brow product that they're launching during the sale. They have some other surprises, and they said in their Instagram posts that they're trying to do like some of the best sales they've ever done and probably will ever do this year. If you're interested in trying Sydney Grace, the Christmas in July sale is a great time to do it. If you go to their website, links in the description bar, look for their sales and promotions page. They'll tell you what's on sale, what day, and it goes from 9 in the morning Pacific till 9 the next morning when it switches to the next day's promotion. If you are an international purchaser, you can let them know in the notes section when you make your purchase that you want them to hold your purchase until you like make a second purchase 2 or 3 days later and then ship it all at once so you don't have to pay for international shipping more than once. But if you're here in the United States, they'll just ship it out to you and you'll get the whatever daily shipping charge. I'll tell you, I love Sydney Grace so much. Literally my most reached for, my favorite. I've gotten rid of so many other singles from my collection, things that I don't even like. ColourPop, who is she? We don't know her. I just feel like, I know there's a lot of other brands that do single eyeshadows, MAC, Anastasia Beverly Hills, like a ton of other ones. I'm just not that interested because everything I want, I get from Sydney Grace. Let me know what your favorite Sydney Grace eyeshadow is, product is, what you're most excited about for the Christmas in July sale. If you haven't tried them, are you going to? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you again soon.